Traders, what's going on, guys? Let's take a look at today's markets. We are seeing some pretty massive moves. Check out this. I have a TRY-JPY up right now. That's the Turkish lira versus the Japanese yen, but that's not what we're looking at. We're actually going to be keeping an eye out on that Turkish lira versus the U.S. Dollar. All right, and also versus the euro, because obviously it's over there in the euro. It almost got accepted into the European Union back in the 1990s, but it did not happen. All right, right now they have some pretty interesting things going on, and I have a pretty cool content segment coming out later on about it. But it's actually driving our markets quite wildly. You guys can see here, we broke sell side outside of this ascending triangle and ended up testing that 50% retracement level. Now, interestingly enough, last week, we mentioned, hey, I don't think that we should see too much of a, well, we shouldn't get too involved in a buy-side move up here in these highs. Because, again, we wanted to start buying this market down here in these lows, and we never really got there. So if I pull up the daily, here you go. What you guys can see before all of that madness happened, this is really what we were looking like. Okay, and so all I was mentioning was, hey guys, maybe if we could trade back down into this range here, maybe that is when we actually maybe have some buy-side opportunity. And boom, we ended up spiking back up into structure. We never quite broke the high here, and then we actually broke sell side, but broke sell side way more than I ever obviously would expect, right? So at one point there was a little bit of buy-side momentum around this price area. It tested the low. You had a bunch of analysts on Seeking Alpha say now it's going to get a price swing up into the 17, 18s. And I was really out of it. I really didn't believe that we would see too much of a bullish move back up into structure. I know a lot of folks wanted to see some buy side down here in these lows. I know Jesus wanted to see something on an intraday perspective, and he got it. But when it came to a swing, we did not see that swing sustain at all. Basically, what we got was a massive hemorrhaging of the euro and a massive inflow of the US dollar. And that is because what is happening with Turkey right now. So if you guys don't know, what's going on in Turkey is basically there's a guy who's being held captive at the moment. His name's Andrew McMigan. I'm not sure what his name is, but he's being held captive. He was a Turkish priest. Well, he was a U.S. priest stationed in Turkey. Okay, and so he got imprisoned back in 2016. And Donald Trump has been trying to get him back over, expedited back over into the U.S. And so, as Trump has done in the past recent months or so, he actually put tariffs on Turkey, steel and aluminum tariffs, like he did with some of the other economies. But what he ended up doing was, he asked, again, Erdogan, that's the president of Turkey, he said, hey, look, give us back our guy, and, there won't be any kind of repercussions or any extra sanction. Erdogan said no, and then subsequently after that, once he said no, Trump Trump actually put down double the sanctions on Turkey. Okay, and so what we can see is, obviously that affected our markets here in the euro. I'll talk about why the euro got affected massively, but this is what happened when Trump did that. We had Turkey trade, the Turkish lira, it was trading at one point $5 for 1 lira, and overnight it went to $7 for 1 lira. I mean, that's a pretty massive price move. It's over a 25–30% price move, right? So I mean, almost nearing a 50% price move. So basically, that's pretty massive. That has shaken economies. That's thrown the Turkish bonds out of whack. And obviously, as you guys can see, this is now the largest price move that we have seen since the Brexit. Okay, so that's quite impressive. All right, so now we had Brexit in 2016, and currently right now, when it comes to massive price moves happening overnight, we have the Turkish lira, and so that's affected a lot of things. That's affected the euro here. The euro, as you guys can see, ended up selling off. European banks had massive amounts of exposure to the Turkish lira. Okay, and so since that exposure is affecting the European banks, you have European bonds and different assets that are basically being used as collateral for the Turkish lira, and it's literally just collapsing, a lot of some of those bank assets, which is actually sending the euro sell side. All right, so you got the euro weakening, you got the U.S. dollar strengthening throughout this process. As you guys can see here, we hit a 13-month high. All right, we hit a 13-month high on this euro here as well. And you have the JPY actually getting just a little bit stronger, You do see that the JPY did end up pushing back up into, pushing back down into structure. And now, since that US dollar is just getting so much stronger, we're seeing that US dollar really take over that JPY. But originally, it did bring in some strength to the JPY. If you guys don't, and when you exclude that US dollar and just look right at the JPY, you can see it right here. Okay, here's our Euro JPY. Look at that sell side happening here on the Euro JPY. All right, we were moving, started the week last week, maybe even 2 weeks ago at 31. We went as low as 125. That's a 600-point move, all right, for that Euro relative to that JPY. Here we go again, past 2 days. That was a Thursday and Friday last week. That's when everything started happening. Boom, and we even gapped down. Again, more buy side on the JPY. And then finally, you guys will see even more buy side on the JPY relative to that pound. Pound not doing so hot. Lots of outside investment leaving the pound, so we're getting a weakening economy over there. So again, you got the euro, you got the US dollar, and the JPY right now being affected massively because of what's happening in Turkey. Now it's just all about the actual price move. What kind of opportunity do we see? You know, is there something tradable happening right now? Well, I think there is. I think we are having some things set up a little bit. Right now, I am keeping an eye out on this USD CHF. We are consolidating right now really heavily on this USD CHF. And I did want to see a break higher on the USD CHF. I don't know if this US dollar is going to be able to sustain this price move. Again, a lot of this price move being fairly heavily dominated by what's happening in Turkey. I don't know if the US dollar is going to sustain the price move. If we get a test back down here to the 95s, what that will mean for us, folks, is that will mean we will see a break here on this USD CHF, potentially just back up into this previous high. Okay, so I'm not looking for anything too massive of a price move. I would just like a retest. And if you can get a solid entry here on this retest, that can definitely lead you to some pretty profitable situations, right? Because I mean, if this is our stop area, this is our entry area, well, automatically we're dealing with something a little over a 2-to-1 risk-reward ratio. But if you can get a little bit closer, I mean, now you're pushing. And these are dailies, right? So again, we're kind of assessing and accounting for some volatility. But if you can get this thing a little closer and basically create this to be your stop entry spread, now you're looking closer to a 3.5 to potentially 4-to-1 risk to reward ratio. So right now we got 50 pips there, and here we have right at around 100 some odd, 150 pips. So right near that 3-to-1 risk reward ratio. So that is something I am keeping an eye on. Some things are coming to fruition when it comes to the Swiss franc. Here's the Canadian dollar, by the way, if you guys haven't seen it. Again, you do see a gap up here. We do see a gap up for that from that US dollar strength that came in. But we do right now also have markets pulling back sell side. And if you guys would have taken a quick look, you'd have saw that that's really based off of that that dollar kind of pulling back sell side as well. So there's a lot of stuff happening right now in these markets, folks. I am keeping an eye on it. Where can this euro freaking go? So right now, again, do want to show you guys, if we want to base things off of the euro, if we want to play that euro is now currently hitting some kind of structure. What I think, personally, is I do think we will start to see some consolidation around this 50. I don't think we're going to run sell side here, okay? I really don't. I think there's a lot of data that's being priced in right now from that euro and from the US dollar that potentially will be, it's a little extreme, right? And so I think that extremeness of markets currently happening right now is going to somewhat pull back a bit, leading this Euro USD not too far away, which is great. If we get a test of the 16s again, I mean, folks, that's still a 180-point move. That's not so bad. And again, with the right entry, you can put on a pretty sizable position in that situation. So that's what I am keeping an eye on. All right, if you guys have any questions, let me know. I'm going to be sending out some data in regards to what's happening in Turkey. And check out the content segment I'm going to be pushing out on the YouTube in regards to the Turkey. And let's see what we get. Okay, let's see what we get. I know Jesus is going to be throwing some things out there in just a second as well. All right, so it's a pretty packed week. Last week, massive market moves. Let's see how markets trade this week. And, we'll be here for it. Okay, so guys, let me know if you need anything. Talk soon.